Hey everyone, welcome back. So today we have the leaders and the organizers of Freelance Unlocked, and we're going to talk about the most exciting freelance conference that has happened now for the second year running. So we have Tomas, we have Marc, we have Manuel, and of course we have the Godfather, John Younger, talking about what is the state of freelance today and what can everyone expect at the conference next month. Now, Freelance Unlocked is the largest conference for freelancers in Europe, and one of the most exciting things is that every organizer, so Tomas, Marc, Manuel, they lead Germany and Europe's leading flexible talent solutions. So whether it's Freelancermap, whether it's Uplink, whether it's 9am, you're not just seeing a bunch of influencers, you're seeing the people who drive the full flexible talent industry. So that's the episode. In terms of right now, the only thing that we can say from a business perspective is that we all must get used to uncertainty. Whether it's tariffs, whether it's technology like DeepSeek, we have a really exciting episode coming up with AirTM. We're going to talk about stable coins and we're going to talk about global payments. These technology trends and the global sort of uncertainty means that every company needs to embrace flexible talent because you need to adapt, you need to adjust, you need to be agile. And here's one of the sad realities that in the boardroom they'll talk about, there is going to be downsizing across most companies, but rather than just laying off and getting rid of everyone, you need to figure out how to reuse, which is where a flexible talent network really shines. So without further ado, enjoy the episode. I hope that I can see you all in a month in Berlin. That'll make me so happy. Make sure you come and say hi. But without further ado, enjoy the episode. Have you seen HumanCloud's market map? We took the over 1,000 flexible talent solutions and crunched them into a global snapshot. Check this out. We broke them down by segments, by large horizontal marketplaces, vertical niche platforms, fractional platforms, hybrid platforms, even the providers like freelance management solutions, EORs, payroll solutions, and the increasing digital workers. Now it doesn't end here. Next, you'll see the rolling out of these specialized platforms. You'll see the consulting talent platforms, the tech, the IT. Did you know there's some just for customer experience? You'll also start to see the rolling out of things like business models and feature sets. We can't wait for you to check it out. We can't wait for you to engage and collaborate. Go to humancloud.work/marketmap today.
All right, so listen, you four. So we are going to have a hell of a time in May. And for you listeners out there, I would say the best freelance conference in the world is happening in May. It's round two. Round one was way more of a smashing success than I think even you guys expected. So let me open it up by saying thank you for coming on before the conference. I know your time is super valuable. And I guess you guys want to do a boring set of intros to start this up, and I'll throw it over. John, I'll have my fellow American. You go first, and then we'll go around.
Sure. I'm John Younger. I've been writing about the freelance revolution for quite a while. I'm building a startup called Mensch.Work with my colleague Alvaro Oliveira, and I was a very excited and proud speaker last year at Freelance Unlocked. And I am so excited to be part of it.
Thank you, John. All right, we'll go over to the Italian stylist, and I'm not going to say who that is.
It's not me, but I'm Thomas from Germany. I sell these nice leather jackets, if you know the Jana Jones line. Hi, I'm Thomas. I'm CEO at freelancermap.com. That's a pretty huge freelancer platform in Germany, and we have some spots left outside of Germany also for freelancers and project providers. And I think 2 years ago, I met the two crazy guys, Marc and Manuel, and we created a place where freelancers meet, and it's called Freelance Unlocked. And I gave over to Marc.
Thanks, Thomas. Yes, that was indeed crazy 2 years ago. Myself, Marc Clemens, founder of CodeControl and 9am, probably about 10 years, something, the freelance economy. Started off with CodeControl, created a freelancer marketplace for tech talent. And then later on started 9 a.m. We call it these days a freelancer CRM. Originally started Freelance OS, these days freelancer CRM, meaning helping freelancers to optimize the inbound and outbound sales globally. While CodeControl had an international footprint from the beginning, we tried to have a German footprint on 9 a.m. And now we go more international with about 20% of our talents from the US.
I love it. And Manuel, over to you. And by the way, Manuel has the best office than all you guys. I can confirm. Good Wi-Fi. It's really nice. Yeah, Manuel, over to you.
That's true. I'm very blessed by having, it's not my office, it's a co-working space that I'm sitting at, but it's really nice. Unfortunately, we have to move out by the end of the year, but we find something equally nice. Yeah, I'm Manuel. I'm also a founder of a freelance network. It's called Uplink. I started it 8 years ago after having been a freelancer for 6 years, and started it out of frustration, really, of working with IT recruiters. And I think every developer, I'm a developer by trade, or every freelancer has been at the point where they said, okay, we're going to do it ourselves, like from freelancers for freelancers, and everything very open and transparent, and all these things that normal IT recruiters often don't really work with. Yeah, it's been growing ever since. It's not huge. It has like 5,500 members. But it's a very nice community in Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. And we're posting jobs that the people can apply to. We have a very active online community. We do meetups, we do webinars, so we do a bit of everything. And yeah, now we do the conference, the second time we're organizing it. And it has become like an integral part, I think, of all our 3 networks that we connect the whole freelancing economy with. And we're very excited to be able to organize it again this year.
I love it. So listen, first thing is I want you guys to get your hands ready, okay? If you didn't wash your hands, that's disgusting. But so how many, using fingers, okay? This is what I mean is everyone's going to see your hands. Here's on video. On fingers, how many years have you all been in the freelance economy? And I know we only have 10 fingers, so max is 10. But everyone put their hands up. 10, right? So 10, okay. So 50 years of collective wisdom just in this group alone, and 40 from you 4. And so
No. There's 50 years of experience just in me.
John, that was going to be my next section, was going to be show everyone how you opened last year's conference. But so next question though, John, is for you, and I'd love, what was your experience like for you, John? Because you and I were more on the side of not being able to see the sausage made. So for us, we just saw this beautifully ran show. And so, John, I'd love to hear your experience, and then we're going to hit on the why from Marc, Manuel, and Tomas. But yeah, and John, if you want to recreate your skit, I mean, that was legendary, or maybe just say you have to buy a ticket to see it. But
You know, I really enjoyed three elements of the conference. So in seriousness, first element of the conference was that it was nicely international while remaining significantly German. So I love the mix of it. Second is, while Manuel and Marc and Thomas are developers, and while the original notion of Freelance Unlocked was developers, the reality is that people in marketing, people in consulting, people in hardware and other areas said, wait a second, this is an opportunity for me to meet with and spend time with colleagues. And so it became larger than a developers conference, though it remained very significantly in a developers conference. So we had the internationalism, we had the wide range of freelance areas of interest, and the third is, it was a nice vibe. I mean, it was just, I don't know how else to describe it except to say people were friendly, they were into it, they were playing with stuff. It didn't feel weighty. We had a range of speakers, from people like you and me, Matt, all the way to one of the German ministers talking about the future of freelancing and contingent work. So it kind of had everything that you'd want in a conference, and it was kind of a nice place. It was held in a place that wasn't kind of the ground floor of a fancy suite hotel. It was kind of kitschy and it was kind of goofy, and there were these funny rooms, and it was an old building, and it was right by the water, I remember. And that just made it pleasant. It didn't feel like you were walking into the Four Seasons or some other hotel and had to look like you belonged there. I felt like I belonged there intuitively at Freelance Unlocked. And so I said to them, you have got to do this again. And the good news is a lot of other people said, you have got to do this again. And here we are.
And the only thing you left out on was the pretzels. Very, very good pretzels. That's the one thing. But my favorite part was when John, you led like a spontaneous elevator pitch session, and you see like one picnic table leads to two picnic tables, leads to three picnic tables. You see like on a lunch break, right? Where most business conferences, lunch break means I'm getting the hell out of here. But nope, you have, 30 plus freelancers on multiple picnic tables. So I'll make sure to put that photo in the show notes. But so in the prep manual, you were the one that took the baton and said the why and the theme that you really wanted to make sure we hit on. I'm going to hand it over to you first in terms of why it's such an important conference, especially this year. So over to you, Manuel.
Yeah, so we all had different ideas of what we want to do with Freelance Unlocked. And for me, it's really interesting to create like a main gathering place or a gathering time for freelancers once a year. Because I think that's what a lot of freelancers are missing. Everything is digital and remote nowadays, especially after COVID. So it's really nice to be able to say, hey, we've done business together. Let's meet at this one place once a year and have a drink together and listen to some other people, some other folks. And especially now where times are kind of tough here in Germany. And we have a lot of, the political situation is not really clear. There's elections soon. And the inflation and the war here in Europe. So there's a lot of difficult things that came together in recent years that made it so that a lot of freelancers are not really having a good time and are not really in a project right now. And I think especially in times like these, it's really important to get together to talk about what's going well, what's not going well, how we can improve our situation, how we can work together instead of being these like lonely fighters that we're often. So I like that people really like the vibe at the first Freelance Unlocked and are looking forward to do it again next year or this year.
I love that. And one important thing I want to call out for your listeners is that you three, you see all sides. Actually, you four, you see all sides of the space right now. And so you built the largest freelance network in Germany. You've built now, and Marc, you're building the best freelancer operating system in Germany, right? So you all are seeing, I mean, this is not just you're enabling every person at the conference to see the forest from the trees, right? So you're able to see both the freelancer side, the client side, the industry side, even the politician side, which is crazy. And so, Thomas and Marc, what would you say is the why for this year? And then after this, we are going to go into, listen, how was 2024 and what is 2025 looking like for the freelance economy as a whole? But so, Marc and Thomas, what would you say is the why for the conference right now?
Shall I start? I don't know, but I think the why stays fairly similar, and I think while it's certainly coming together, there's one more thing that I wasn't sure in advance of the last conference that we would manage to achieve, and that is that people see it as a real learning opportunity. And I was amazed that there were barely people outside during the talks. Usually you go to a conference, everyone stands outside, drinks beer, and we started, I don't know, filling the fridges with beer at 12 or something like that. So people were able to drink beer, right? There was a possibility for it, but they were sitting inside and listening to the talks. And the feedback what we got was that they learned a great deal and that they were really amazed by the high quality presentations that people gave. And that was such a nice feeling for us, because of course we want to start a conference, we want to start a conference with some content, but the idea was, okay, we bring the people together, we give them a place to go. But then it ended up, and that's thanks to the speakers and obviously to the guests, to become really a learning opportunity. And I think this is something that, as Manuel said, we have probably 2 really tough years, so one of the toughest 2 years behind us in the freelance economy, at least for Germany, but I think globally it's been tough. And such a conference gives the chance to learn, to see how can I professionalize my freelancing, how can I make sure that I win better clients, that I use my time in a better way, that I earn more money with the given hours, and so on. So yeah, I think learning is a big part for this year as well.
I'd like to add something there. It's about learning, but it's also about to know that you are not alone. Because when you are a freelancer, this is something that we often hear. I'm alone, I have my business, now I work from home. It's a very, very lonesome duty sometimes. And especially in times of crisis, it's great to connect with other people who have the same issues and the same problems, and to see, hey, no, we're not alone. We are a huge group of people that like to exchange about our problems and like to exchange what we are feeling with our work as being a freelancer. And this is something that happened at the conference, because, to be honest, the 3 of us didn't know what to expect. I mean, it could have happened anything at the conference. It could have happened that the freelancers are sitting in a corner on their laptop and doing some coding stuff because they're on a project right now. But this didn't happen. The people connected, and we really have to admit at this point, the weather was amazing on these 2 days. And yeah, well, it's Germany. It's not always.
No worries, we ordered it for this year as well, right? So
We ordered it for this year also, no problem. No, but this whole thing gave a fantastic vibe to the conference, and this is what happens when John comes and sits outside on some tables to talk with freelancers how to find their universal selling point and something like that. But this is something, if you ask why, then we know what we did in the first place, and we know what the people want for the next time. They want more exchange, they want to connect more, and this is what we give them. And yeah, I think we knew after 2 hours at the first conference that we will do a second edition. So
May I add something to that, Matt? And that is,
Yeah.
so I'm, as everybody knows, I'm the oldest freelancer in the world, and one of the consequences of that is that I'm a grandfather. So we have 2 grandchildren in Brooklyn. I live in New York City, and we have 2 grandchildren in Denver, outside of Denver, where my younger son Aaron and his family live. And every couple of months, the Brooklyn grandkids come over to our house, our apartment in Manhattan, for Camp Bubby's 80. Now, what happens in Camp Bubby's 80 is that we learn some stuff. We have a good time. There's some play around. We'll go to the park. I mean, it's a lovely day. And I would argue that in a certain sense, we had Camp Freelance Unlocked, in the sense that it was relaxed, in the sense that it was open, in the sense that it wasn't an uptight environment that made us feel uptight, but rather it was a very comfortable and welcoming environment that made it possible for people to have conversations by the coffee vendor outside and down from the conference or wherever. It was a nice environment as much as anything else for where people could collaborate, where people could get good ideas, where people could be a little vulnerable and ask for help from colleagues. I think that it was all of the things that the 3 co-founders mentioned, plus this kind of camp Freelance Unlocked, and we kind of all need camp a little bit during the spring or the summer. So I am hoping it'll feel like that again, even though I'm also sure it will be larger. So that's our challenge. My challenge as part of the speakers is to help to create that feeling while people are there.
Yeah, I think you nailed it, John. And I was going to ask you why you were going, and you beat me to it. And so now you've answered. But so let's talk a little bit about the state of the freelance economy right now, and both Germany and globally. Um, let's dig into that. And I'm actually, John, I'm going to hand it over to you because you've always been, the godfather, right? The wisest, and seeing everything, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, but your last name is so fitting for you. So it didn't hit me until the beginning of this episode. I was like, wow, did God get that right? But so from your vantage point, John, how would you describe the last year and how the next year is looking for the freelance economy?
I think we're in transition. I think that it was the COVID helped us a lot. We were new and interesting as an industry, as a capability between 2011 and 2019. And so we were able to grow incrementally. People found it kind of cool. There were lots of startups, et cetera, et cetera. And so we found ourselves as a freelance community, mostly supporting startups and mid-market kinds of companies that were going into stuff. They really needed some help. We knew that remote was now an option, et cetera, et cetera. And then you get to 2020 and the world collapses. And what an opportunity for freelancing. And we grew like a son of a gun over the 3 years that happened. And then what seems like it's happening is the companies are trying to figure out, what is freelancing good for? How broadly is freelancing relevant? And when should we use it? And what needs to be in place in order for enterprise companies to feel confident that freelancing delivers a secure support as opposed to transactional support when things come up? I think we're going to be in this space for a couple, 3 years more. I think it's a sorting out process. People are trying to figure out the limits of freelancing, what it's good for, what it's not good for, and how to set it up right. And what we're starting to see is support for things like agent of record and all that stuff kind of helps. But I think we're going to be in the mix for a couple, 3 years while things sort out. What does that mean for us as a community, as an industry? I just think that we got to go back to what Marc said. We've got to reduce all of the fear factors, the distrust factors that get in our way. And that means in part professionalizing. It means all kinds of things. But if we start with the notion of how do we help companies to feel assured that we can deliver what they need in the way that they need it at the time frame and at a cost that's reasonable without creating a really difficult situation for the freelancers themselves. I hope that's a decent answer to your question. I think we're going to know over the next few years what the future of freelancing actually looks like, as opposed to what theoretically it ought to look like.
Yeah, no, I agree. If you look, so one of the biggest data points that we look at is the CAGR, the compound annual growth rate of
Sure.
talent platforms, and it actually got updated to be increased. So it's now at 17.7% globally. I didn't expect that. It went from 16 to 17. Now, we always say like directionally that's right, but the exact number, who really knows? But I was surprised to see that based off how painful the last year was. Now, Marc, Tomas, and Manuel, either straight from Germany, what is your perspective, and how have you seen it either change, stay the same? Because we're sitting right now in February of 2025, right?
Yeah.
And in the US, at least, it seems like it's changed in from an increase perspective based off the data we see. But from your, lens, Marc, Manuel, and Tomas, what about in Germany and also what you're seeing yourselves?
So what we see, Garrett. Okay, thank you. We have a large amount of recruiting companies at Freelancermap. So that means we see the market of projects that are published in Germany as a whole there. And I share these insights with my community and with the other two guys, of course, very, very strongly. And we see a strong decrease the last 2 years, especially after the war in the Ukraine. And we had a similar view on the projects at COVID. And but it recovered very fast. We had a very fast recovery, and I believe in that. What John said, COVID did a good job digitalizing the field of work for a lot of people, and to rethink their position as a person. Do I want to be employed, or do I want to start making my own business as a freelancer? So I think COVID did something in this scene. And well, then came the war, and since then, it's especially in the German market, it's going down since then, and we don't have a recovery in January, what I really hoped for. And now in February we have the elections, and this will also change the the whole picture on the game again. And it's very, I think, from a German perspective, to see the next 2 years, it's nearly impossible. I don't know, Manuel, Marc, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, in Germany, it's just very clear that the economic situation has been really bad last year, and the projections for this year are not much better. So Germany has, especially when you compare it to Europe, I mean, Germany has always been one of the strongest economies in Europe, and it's not anymore. It's really rather in the lower quarter, I think. And this has a direct influence on all the freelancers and all the businesses that hire freelancers. So I think this is the main, the driving factor that a lot of companies are really struggling, and there have been a lot of companies giving up and going bankrupt much more than in recent years now, in the last 12 months. So this is really bad. And then there's an institute doing polls, I think every 2 or 3 months, the IFO Institute. And you can really see it really polls like, how is your current situation for small businesses, for freelancers, and for larger businesses? How's the current situation, and how is your outlook on the next 6 to 12 months, I think? And you can really see that the mood is really going down, down, down. The smaller like for small businesses and freelancers, they just have a very difficult outlook on the next 6 to 12 months. So I personally don't really see any recovery this year. I think if we're going to see a recovery of the freelance market this year, it will be a surprise, a positive surprise. But all the projections say that the GDP this year in Germany will not really grow, and this will directly be reflected in how the freelance economy is going. And so we hope that we will have a recovery soon, but I think it's going to take 1, 2, or 3 years until we see that.
I want to perhaps add a bit of a positive note or more optimism into it.
Thank you.
I think the market looks grim from our perspective, because we look at the total amount of jobs posted, right? And we look at the amount of jobs that recruiters are posting or recruiters are searching for. And this number has enormously dropped. But the 2 or 3 years before, all of these positions were not filled. Meaning we're not in a situation in which all of the freelancers are suddenly unemployed. But certainly there are way less jobs on the market, meaning you need to fight a bit harder, you need to professionalize your game, you need to make sure that you use all of the tools and everything that is out there in the market to sell yourself, your skills, and your services. But if you do that, you still have a job, you still have a project. And I think that's what we need to look also when we look into the CAGRs. And there are two parts. There's one, just because the amount of postings went down doesn't mean that the market per se dropped. The second thing is we need to distinguish between what happens cross-border. So what happens from the economic south to the Western world when it comes to selling services. And I think has been something that has been still increasing because companies try to cut costs. They've been more relaxed with remote work. And this part has been also professionalized, including also EORs and others, not only the freelance work. So that gives definitely a push to the CAGR. When we look into the national freelance markets, then they have suffered more, right? Because they're working with a freelancer is a fairly expensive thing to do. But if you work cross-border, well, that's a very valid approach still.
Can I build on what Marc just said for 1 second, Matt?
Yeah, of course.
So we've been talking about, Marc and I were talking about professionalizing. Let's sort of dig into that for just 1 second. So what does professionalizing mean? Because it doesn't mean I have to dress as nicely as Thomas. Though that certainly is part of professionalizing. The two things that we've got to be able to do as a freelance community globally is we've got to figure out how to increase our value and reduce the risk to our clients. When I say reduce the risk, what I mean is they perceive us as a risk versus full-time people. Now, we know logically that's kind of dumb, but it doesn't matter. It's the way that it is. And so we've got to find ways to increase the perception of the value that we create versus just kind of a pair of hands to do stuff. And we've got to decrease the risk that clients feel when they hire us versus hire a full-time person. The reason that Freelance Unlocked is so important is we're all trying to figure out how to do this on our own. How stupid is that? You know? I mean, our challenge as a freelance community globally is to figure it out together. Because as, what is it that Benjamin Franklin said? We'd best all something together or will something awful will happen. I forgot what he said. But I think that Freelance Unlocked is an opportunity for individuals to ask themselves the question, what can I learn from others in terms of how I reduce the risk to my clients of work and how I increase the value that I'm seen to provide in that work. And I got some great ideas out of last year that made a difference in my practice. I mean, one of the things that happened is I had the courage after, a million years of writing about freelance to actually jump in the pool and try to build one. So, it gave me confidence. It gave me a sense of possibility. And I believe that of the people that come in May, that most will find a way to improve their game. Most will find a way to reduce the risk that their clients or potential clients perceive that they'll have from working with them. So I see that as the most important thing that we can help people with. New ideas that help them to achieve their goals and realize their dreams.
And let
I
me,
remembered, sorry if I jump in here, I remembered one thing, I think you said it, or I heard it from you first, John, which is a high tide floats all the boats,
All boats.
lifts all the boats, which is, I think, really a really nice image. And it is what it's really true. If freelancers get together and talk about what works, what doesn't work, it helps everybody. And it's not a zero-sum game. It's not that one person is doing better, so another one is doing worse. But we can all do better. We can all learn from, as a freelancer, you have so many areas that you need to work in. Sales, you need to do LinkedIn, you need to work with your current clients, you need to improve your prices and all this stuff. So you need to constantly learn in so many areas of your freelancing business. And you just don't have the time to make all the mistakes until you find what works. So in certain areas, it was so great to see. I remember we had one person from our community, Nicholas Kopp, talking about how to work on your CV to make it into a recruiter magnet. And I think so many people were so amazed by that and amazed to see how much time he had really invested into, improving his CV. And we could all take something out of it and improve our own CV or see how to, phrase our abilities a bit better. And it helped everybody and it doesn't hurt anybody. So I think that's what's really nice, that you get the people together and everybody learns from just being there, hearing about what other people talk about. And it's really such a valuable thing that you only get really at conferences like these. I mean, you can do webinars and stuff, but just being there and getting for 2 days all this knowledge is really invaluable, I think.
And let me bridge the gap, because the next topic is going to be sort of what can we expect, right? And there is one buzzword that you're all going to want to kill me, and I'm just going to say it outright, and that is AI. Now, let me say why I'm saying it. So the silver lining in the declining numbers of freelancers getting hired in Germany is that freelance is still doing better, even in economies that the overall economy is doing bad. Freelance is doing much better than the alternative. And we do have data that shows there's been a 40% decline in freelancers getting hired in Germany, even when there's been a 160% increase in freelancers getting hired in Poland. And so that is one thing we'll talk about at the conference is what's going on. How come Poland, LATAM, and Asia are seeing 40+% growth, and EU and Germany are seeing 40% down? So that's just one little bug in the plug for you listeners. Make sure you're at the conference to talk about it. Now, one silver lining here, though, is that companies do need freelancers. And there's two areas that we're seeing, especially sort of the hook and the reach out. The first is in layoffs. And so if you look at layoffs right now, around 40% of companies that are laying off are actually supplementing that with freelancers and contractors. And that might look like they get laid off, but they end up just contracting. So that's one data point, is that, okay, even when it looks like bad news, it's actually good news for the freelance economy. Second is, when looking at AI, freelancers, the upskilling is so much better. And not a little bit. We're talking about in two ways. It doesn't cost you to upskill a freelancer, and there's a 20% difference in freelancers that upskill versus others. So we are seeing AI being a big sort of hook of, listen, when DeepSeek came out, did you have someone there that could actually react? No. Well, you should have had a freelance pool of people that could both build the websites, ship the content, and have the expertise. So the silver lining in all of this, because I do want to acknowledge, freelance in Germany does look like it's going down based off of everything we see, even though it's going up in other places. But the silver lining is it's a massive opportunity based off the current state of AI technology and even this really rough climate we're in. So what can we expect at the conference? Will there be any AI focus or talks or learning sessions? Let me hand it over to y'all. What can we expect?
One thing I wanted to say is that we're talking about how bad the situation is and how bad the outlook is, but I think it's important to say that all three of us really strongly believe and almost know that freelancing is the future. I mean, freelancing is here to stay. It will grow. It will become more popular. It will, especially with a new generation entering the labor market, it's just a major thing. They want to work flexibly. They don't want to work at the same company for 20, 25 years. So we really believe freelancing is here to stay. And whether this year or next year is going to be bad, it is the future that a lot of people will choose. So it's really important to keep investing in it, and especially during these times, to keep the conference and other things alive, so it stays there and grows. So I just wanted to say that. Regarding AI, we have a great keynote speaker for this year. His name is Sascha Lobo. I'm not sure if anybody outside of Germany has heard of him. He wrote a very famous book like 15 years ago. It's called Wir nennen es Arbeit, like we call it work, which is basically his version of saying, hey, it's freelance work. It's not the traditional kind of work, but it's what we call work. And it has really inspired me like 15 years ago when I read it. And I think a lot of other people as well. And he's a really well-known author and kind of thought leader in explaining technologies and IT, and now especially AI, to people. He's writing in a newspaper online, and he's the television appearances. So I think he will really talk about the topic of AI, and he will give the attendees his take on what AI is doing, especially to the freelancing economy. As you said, it has a huge impact. I mean, just seeing that it's a completely new field, that a lot of freelancers, especially developers, they focus on AI now. And there's so much, we're still like in the very beginning stages of discovering what AI can do for companies, and in which fields it can really be helpful. And so a lot of it creates more opportunities, I think, definitely, than it kind of destroys. Like all the talk about that developers are not going to have a job anymore because AI writes all the systems, I think are hugely overblown. So I think we're still in the midst of it, what it does to the IT and tech and freelancing economy. But I think most freelancers, like we do a survey every 3 months in our community, and we ask people if and how they're using AI tools, and whether they think that AI has a more positive or a more negative impact on their work. And in the beginning, it was really that a lot of, and our community is very tech focused. And in the beginning, it was really that most people said it will replace developers, basically. Or not most people, but a lot of people said it has a very negative impact. We will have less work. It's going to be more competition and so forth. But it kind of shifted. Like nowadays, I think most developers saw, okay, it's really a tool that I use to be more effective, and it won't have a negative impact on my work. It's going to change a lot of things. And like we're still, as you see, as mentioned, DeepSeek. I mean, nobody knows what next week is going to bring in the AI world. But I think most freelancers have come around to seeing it as a positive impact on their work.
I think a crucial element is what you mentioned before, that freelancers upskill quicker than fixed employees. And when we want to look into what AI brings, we need to look into the adaptation phases and how slowly companies move, actually. And if you think that companies move more slowly than freelancers or than startups, for example, then it's especially as well because of employees versus freelance. And the more they freelance in, the more they can innovate themselves, the more they can digitize and get into the new time of AI, of the world of AI. And I think this gives a great opportunity for freelance. They have the chance to learn more, to upskill themselves, to use tools, but also to see within their craft, be it developing, be it marketing, content, HR, no matter what, how to use AI efficiently, and then help companies to implement that within their company. So bring that knowledge and bring efficiencies to the companies. And that's going back to the ROI topic, right? How can you as a freelancer bring a good return to your customer? And I think finding a service offering or finding a way that you can do the things that you do already AI enabled, or helping companies to learn how to do it with AI is a crucial element. And I mean, our schedule is not final yet, but there are lots of talks on AI, and I think there are ways that you can use it as a freelance, but then there's really a way that you should use it as an element to bring it to companies. And I think that brings a great opportunity.
I love it. Tomas, anything you would add, or John, anything you would add?
I'm thinking about, but Freelance Unlocked is a conference for freelancers, and it's impossible not to talk about AI. And this is why we took Sasha as a keynote speaker to bring this topic as a keynote. But I think we shouldn't overreact and have too many talks about AI. I totally agree with that, what Marc said. Freelancers need to know how to use AI as a tool to get more efficient and to help companies to bring it to their perspective. And yeah,
I would add one other thing, that and it's beyond AI, if I may, and that is, we should, if you think about your life as a freelancer and your last introduction to a potential client, what we know is that you start with a big plus and a maybe a big minus. The big plus is your fixed costs to the client are zero. I mean, you're being paid at what you're being paid, but when you're not working, you're not being paid by this client, and that's a big deal. So you are free in between projects, in between assignments, your intellectual, what you've been able to achieve, all of that is available to the client at no fixed cost. That's incredible. What's the negative? The negative is I don't know you. And so I don't know how good you are. I don't know how you're like to work with. I don't know that you know what I need to be able to do, etc. But if we can remind folks at Freelance Unlocked, you start with this big positive, which is you're zero fixed costs. Now focus your attention on how to introduce yourself to the client, how to demonstrate to the client that you know the stuff that they need done. It's a different kind of a marketing thing than perhaps people have ever done. But if you're willing, and I believe that Freelance Unlocked is going to help people to figure that out for themselves. And if we can help people to figure that out for themselves, that's huge. That's huge. So I'm very excited about the possibilities of helping people to understand the big positive they start with and get out of their own way in terms of demonstrating that the small negative, which is, I don't know you, I don't know how good you are, I don't know what you know how to do very well, can be resolved through the introduction that they provide.
And what would be, so a final send-off for you all. So between the time this episode airs and the conference, what do you want every single either company or freelancer to do? Should they be applying to 100 jobs? Should they be refining their message? Should companies just be giving them a shot? What would be your final message to do between exactly when you listeners are hearing this and the conference itself? I'll go with Thomas, Manuel, Marc, John.
So if I had a wish, I would like that companies who are strongly looking for permanent workers and never had the idea to work with freelancers to start rethinking their ways of acquiring people for their company to try out freelancing. Because I think at many companies they have these classic kind of, oh, we need this developer, we need this project manager and so on, and we need permanent people. But the future is different. The future is you have projects at your company that has to be done, and you can't wait half a year till you find the perfect person, because there are so many great freelancers out there that will sit in your desk in 1 week if you want to, and you have to give it a shot.
I love that. Manuel, what about you?
Well, definitely they should get a ticket for Freelance Unlocked if they haven't yet. So that should be number one on everybody's to-do list. And I think you're going to have a nice discount code to give out with this episode. What I hear from a lot of freelancers say, hey, I'm struggling to find a project. I've never had this situation. I've always had projects for the last 10 years. I never had to, even work on a CV or even join any platform and apply to a project there, because they always got projects through word of mouth and recommendations. And I hear from a lot of people, they say, but it's not that bad, because now I finally have time to, work on my skills, really sit down and figure out what do I want to do in the future, what area, not even AI, but in general, what area do I want to work with? Because it's sometimes a thing that you don't do. If you're just busy the whole time, and if you're always booked full time in a project from week after week after week, at some point you notice, okay, I'm in this space for like 10 years now, still building WordPress sites, nothing against WordPress, but still doing this one thing that I started out with. Whereas if I had some downtime in between, I might have had time to, realign and really focus on where I really want to go. So I think that's really valuable. That a lot of freelancers can afford to spend the time now into upskilling, into just thinking about and investing some time to find out what they really want to do. And then just simple things like work on their CV, join a platform here, join the Uplink community. Also very important to talk to other freelancers and kind of, to do everything that they sometimes don't have the time for when they're just booked for 40 hours or more per week.
I love it. And Marc, what about you?
Yeah, I want to build on that. Understand that you run a business. And I think that's something that most freelancers did not have to understand. So what Manuel said, right? Most freelancers did not understand that they're running. They thought, I just offer my service now. And usually it was just my skill, and my skill is, for developer Java. So that was kind of their statement. So I think really understand that you run a business. So use GPT and discuss a bit. What is your vision, mission? What is your USP? How do you sell yourself best? What is your ideal customer persona? How do you convert best? What makes you convert a deal and what doesn't? And it's not a lot of effort that you have to put in, because the resources are out there. There are all of the communities. There's from Uplink, Freelancermap, 9am, CodeControl, Freelance Unlocked, obviously, so many options to ask people. There are tons of coaches out there if you want to go for that. There was an online course by 9am, but there are many ways of getting that. And I think the best start is always GPT, and start thinking as if you're running a one-person company. And where do you want to go and how do you get there?
I love that. Now, John, a preview to the picnic table. Last word from you. What does it say?
What makes you special? So come to the work, come to Freelance Unlocked. And one of the things that you will get from coming to Freelance Unlocked is the chance to work with colleagues around a very simple question, which is what makes you special. And we did that last year, and we got about 50 people together to sort of do this. And it was a lot of fun, but it was also very helpful for a number of people, which is really asking the question that Marc asked, which is, how do I move from understanding I'm a business to making sure that my clients understand what's special about my business and why it's perfect for them at this time? That's something we can't do alone. That's something we need help from friends with. And the idea of getting a whole bunch of people together and doing that in a sort of a fun but also serious way is probably as good a description of Freelance Unlocked as any, which is we're doing serious work in an interesting and fun way with the goal of helping you to be a better freelancer tomorrow. I think that's kind of it. And I'm traveling from New York there, and I've got to pay part of my stuff myself. So if I'm coming and paying for myself and doing this crazy podcast on top of it, I must be interested. I must be committed. Come with us. Join us. Be part of Freelance Unlocked. Spend some of your money too.
John, if anything's going to get you out of New York, then boy, do you need to be there. So for new listeners,
Great Turkish restaurants, great Turkish section, good food.
we will see you all at a picnic table with John soon in May. Get some pretzels, and listen, we can't wait to see you all in May. Marc, Manuel, Thomas, John, thank you so much for helping on.
Thank you.